blame is on you. The sights are on me. So what do? That's guaranteed. Hey, little girl, you break the laws. You hustle, you deal, you steal from us all. Come on, loving for the money. Come on, listen to the money talk. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley and director from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we are stirring up more trouble than Tim Walz on a town hall tour. What's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot. It's just a pleasure starting the show when I know the song.
Yeah?
Because it's not alternating current. It's not direct current. It's AC/DC.
That's correct. Money talks.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah?
A great classic there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Walz not too popular anywhere he goes.
No. Did you see today he was back home and he was getting booed by veterans?
Yeah, I wish somebody would put a tampon right on his podium. Just that would just be great to see what he does. Probably pick his ear with it or something.
Nationally, that's his new nickname, so
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Aren't we proud here in Minnesota?
Yes.
Isn't it great
Yeah.
to have a little tampon out there?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I got to say, Jay, before we get going too far, a busy last week or two for people passing away. I just need to say a couple things.
Yes.
Val Kilmer.
Yes.
I mean, just a tragedy.
Great actor.
Yeah, I remember I watched the Top Gun movie. I didn't
Oh, yeah.
realize that he actually was sick. I thought they just.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
I
either.
thought they
Yeah.
made him look sick, but he's been sick for quite some time, I
Yeah.
guess. And he was only 64 years old or something.
Yep.
So it's just, Top Gun and what was the Wyatt Earp
Tombstone.
movie? Yeah, okay, yeah, he played Doc Holliday. I mean, those are the iconic roles for me. Old George Foreman passing away, which was just, that was Tell Sweet Cheeks. Just another, just weird that I didn't know anything about him being ill or anything like this. And there's one more person who passed away, and I'm going to ask you what Bernard Shaw asked. If Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, what would you do? Would you favor the death penalty? Don't you remember that at the debate? Bush Dukakis debate?
Oh, yes.
Kitty
yes,
Dukakis
yeah.
passing away at 88. I didn't even know old Michael was still alive.
Yeah?
But he is 91. I looked it
Wow.
up. He's still alive. I haven't heard him speak and
I didn't know he was that close to Jimmy Carter in age.
not that far.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose he's a little bit after him, but not much.
I mean, he's right up there with like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and
the whole
club.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a busy time there for some people that we've lost.
Yes.
But the Val Kilmer one, though, is just
Yeah.
You see him as like an action tough guy, and just to know he just withered down to nothing is that's just ugly. It's just ugly. And I how old was George Foreman when he won his last heavyweight title in the 90s?
Oh goodness.
Because he's
45?
Yeah, he was something like that. He's a big guy, but it was he was he had that great second act. I mean, he was when he beat Joe Frazier for the title, and then Ali beat him. I think that was the Rumble in the Jungle, I think is what it was eventually was. So, certainly an incredible legacy from George. Do you think he's more famous as a boxer, or is he more famous for his grills? I mean, I'm kind of being facetious when I say that, but when you think
he's
about
more
it,
popular as a boxer.
okay, now for people our age, that's probably true. If you're 28 years old, the George Foreman grill is what?
No.
What
George Foreman won his last fight against Lou Savarese at the age of 48.
Okay.
The victory was a split decision, and he retained his WBU heavyweight title. His last fight overall was 1997, where he lost a controversial decision to Shannon Briggs.
I never heard of her. So how old was Foreman?
48.
No.
When he died.
He's what, about 70, late 70s maybe he was?
Maybe, yeah. Something like that.
Okay, so I mean, not that. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But that's, crazy stuff for sure. Winning a title bout at 48. That's, that's
fighting
something.
a title bout at...
Right. I mean, how old?
I'm 48.
How old? How do you feel right now? You feel like you could get in a ring?
I could go a whole 5 seconds.
Yeah, he was 76 when he passed.
Okay. So.
Yeah. You could go the whole 13 rounds.
If a round was 5 seconds.
Yeah. How old was Tyson when he fought that last fight? Do you remember?
Oh, he was cool, boy.
He's older than that.
Tyson right now is 58
58,
years old.
so okay. Wow.
But you know what? You just wonder with a guy like Tyson, is it all about needing the money? Is he fighting because he has to stay in the spotlight because of his baby mamas or his pet tiger or whatever? I mean,
who knows?
It's kind of like, why is Ric Flair still wrestling at 75? Well, probably because he has to.
He might.
What's he on, wife number 5 or wife number 6? I mean, it may not be a thing of pride,
Yeah.
Because to me, Tyson's become what we all used to hate. The old guy who had to, every fighter thinks it's like Mick said to Rocky.
Right. Every
pug thinks they got one more good fight left in them. I'm gonna show you something here. Look at here at the end of my nose. Look at the end. I mean, there's just
we're gonna test your lamps.
Yeah. Look here now. So I mean, there's always that, but it's like in baseball. I used to cringe at Old Timers Day. I remember this. I remember 1988. Sometime around that time, the Twins had an Old Timers game, and I'll tell you
Tony Oliva played.
Tony Oliva looked like he could still play.
Yeah.
Jim Cott looked like he could still pitch.
Yeah.
Earl Batty looked like he was about ready to keel over. Okay, It was pathetic. It was just.
Yeah.
I didn't know Bob Allison was sick, but he looked awful. It's just kind of like. There's just some. I used to just Old Timers days. I just cringe, and to me, that's what I think of when I think of when I watch like a boxer who's just way over the hill and just can't quit or has nothing else in their life or needs the money or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that about Foreman. I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming he sold enough grills where if he didn't want to box, he didn't have to.
Right.
So
but
when you hold the world title belt, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The thing is, too, is there's so many boxing matches from that era I wish we'd have seen more of.
Yeah.
Like, we got the Tyson Holyfield, the first one, then the Ear one, but we never got to see some of the other. I don't know. There was just then one guy signs with HBO, one guy signs with Showtime.
Yeah, it's all pay-per-view.
It's like they can't. They can't. It's like the Pacquiao, Merriweather. They can't.
But I mean, wrestling has done well doing pay-per-view, and so has UFC. So it's
there's a niche for it. There's a niche for it.
Yeah,
there's a niche for that. But I don't think, the difference with wrestling is 90% of it's not on pay-per-view.
Right.
So if you miss a pay-per-view, okay, I'll see what happened on the internet.
Right.
You miss a heavyweight, you miss an MMA championship. Well, you're not getting that any other way.
Yeah. Well, and this can happen with MMA, but it doesn't really happen with wrestling. But where, like in boxing, how many times did Mike Tyson punch somebody out in the first round? It was over within a minute and a half, right?
It happened to him.
And you're paying for something, and it's over in a minute and a half, like the main card, or the main bout on the card. Wrestling,
you're guaranteed a 3-hour show.
You're guaranteed a 3-hour show. Every match is going to take 20 minutes or whatever. You know, this person has to start winning, and then this person starts winning, and then there's interference from this person, and then they run around the ring and chase each other.
The good guy starts hot,
yeah.
The bad guy gets the heat, and then it's reversed, then they go home.
Unless he Pearl Harbors them at the beginning,
exactly.
right? Yeah, that's the other type of match.
Anyhow,
yes.
Jay, I gotta say, what do you make of the tariff stuff? I gotta say, because I'm a tariff guy most of the time.
Yeah.
I would. Well, what do you think of the brouhaha in the last week, where we're sitting right now?
People are really jumpy. I think that we owe it to President Trump to at least give him a chance to see if this works. If it doesn't work, yeah, we got to hold him to account. But unfortunately, you've got a media that and Democrats that are constantly in the media that are always, talking him down and say, "Oh, look, price of eggs, price of this, price of whatever." It's come on. I mean,
Now let me just forget the politics of it for a minute, because I think Trump's approval rating's actually gone up in several polls. I think it's because people understand we're getting screwed.
Yes.
Whether Trump's formula is the right way.
People know we have to do something.
Yeah, exactly. Keeping it the way it is not acceptable, and I think people do understand that.
Yeah.
My question is this, and this is, I think, the administration, and I think it was a smart thing by President Trump to call timeout, because one thing that has to be clear is the goal.
Yeah.
Is the goal to bring jobs back here, which is going to take time?
Yep.
Is the goal to thing too?
Yep.
Okay. Is the goal to screw China here? Because I have some theories on what a deal will look like. I really don't think it's all about trade. I'll get into that in a sec. But is there? And I think the administration. I think one thing I've learned about Trump is nobody really speaks for him. If I don't hear it from him personally, I always kind of go, all right.
Stephen Miller maybe speaks for Trump.
Maybe. Miller's probably the closest, and Homan certainly does on immigration.
Yeah.
But, I saw 3 different interviews with 3 different people that I like all 3 guys.
Yeah.
But Peter Navarro comes out and says, no, these are staying. This is a policy now.
Yeah.
We're going to blah, 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 blah. Scott Bessett, who I like as well, comes out and says, we've had a lot of countries call us. Deals are imminent. Don't worry. We're working it out. We're prioritizing this and that. Howard Lutnick, who I love, comes out and says, what I think we're going to do? We're going to keep these tariffs and get rid of the income tax. This was all on Sunday. And I'm like, okay. And then Trump was flying. Trump's press conferences are some of the best television.
Yes, they are.
Because he was flying back to Washington from Florida, and this one toots asked him something about the stock market, and Trump literally looks at her and says, "That's the stupidest question. Such a stupid question." And then she tried to ask another question, and Trump goes, "No, I'm going to take his question. She talks too much. I'm going to take his question." I'm just sitting, but Trump's really cooler than the other side of the pillow right now, which tells me that there's 50,000 things going on, but the end game has to be.
Yeah.
See, what I was thinking, and there's 2 schools of thought that this is an isolation move against China. I'm not sure Trump thought it would play out that way, but maybe that's what's going on. And I think Trump wants to announce a big deal.
Yeah.
He wants to come out and say, we got 70 countries to capitulate to us. You blank said I couldn't do it, and I did it. We got, but to me, I liked his first 6 weeks where there was a little victory every day.
Yeah.
One day it was the Lincoln Riley Act. Then it was a press conference of this guy who's going to build a factory over here. Then it was an executive order to get rid of the Department of Education. Then so-and-so got confirmed to this. And I think little victories showing that progress, the people will stick with him if he does that. But I don't want June, July, and everything to go by because the economic benefits are going to take a little while to see.
Yes.
And I think that's a big deal. Now, China, with regard to China, and I think there's something in the works there. I think Trump wants TikTok as part of the deal.
Yeah.
I think he wants some pressure on Russia as part of the deal.
Yep.
They're still trying to end that war. I mean, I know it's gone back and forth, and they've been trying hard to do it and just can't nail down a deal. I mean, I think everybody thinks a deal is close, but I mean, that's been that way for months now.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot at stake. I think Taiwan is something at stake.
Yep, it sure is.
So, I mean, what's your take? Is this a trade? Trump doesn't want a war.
Nope.
That's exactly what he doesn't want.
Right.
So where do you think this is going with the trade issue? You know, I mean, how is it going to be framed?
Well, I think it's multifaceted. I mean, Trump always thinks, he's playing chess on how many fronts, right?
Right.
And you see that with everything he does. Part of it is the fairness to America. Oh, you're going to, we're running trade deficits with certain countries. Other countries, maybe we're not, but we're still getting tariffed on them. Mm-hmm. And so it's equaling the playing field. So it is more of a free trade kind of environment. I think that's one front that he's concentrating on. Another is bringing manufacturing back, or at least getting it out of China, because that's going to weaken China, right? So he does want to weaken China. And one way to do that is to get manufacturing out of there. If they come back to America, great. If they go to countries like Vietnam, which just said they're going to drop all their tariffs, that's great too. Uh-huh. That also helps us. But yes, China is a big deal. I don't know. There's some rumors circulating, and I think it's been confirmed. There was a C-130 that took off from an American base and landed at Bagram this week. So there's also rumors that Trump is dealing with the Afghanis because the strategic aspect of that base is it deals with China. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and because Afghanistan is having trouble with ISIS-K, that's something that we could possibly help them with. I don't like dealing with the Taliban, not at all. They're awful people.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you can thank the president in between,
right?
Who caused that,
right?
Yeah. Well, I think all that's on the table. I think that's why a deal with China is going to take a while.
Yes.
Because I think the Chinese, kind of like the Russians, I think the Russians want this war to end too, but they don't want to be seen as capitulating to the United States.
Right.
It's kind of like Reagan and Gorbachev. They had to meet in Iceland, and Reagan walked away, and all the nuclear freeze people went nuts. A couple months later, Reagan and Gorbachev meet again. Reagan's holding the cards.
Yeah.
And I think that it may take a bit, but I do think that in the end, you're going to get... look, if he gets a deal that helps curb China, I mean, that's he belongs on Mount Rushmore if he can get that.
Yes.
And, I'll tell you, the greatest thing was the European Union. You just got to love love the European Union. We're not doing nothing, blah, blah, blah. A couple hours later, okay, we're going to drop. They have no consumer base.
They don't.
We all know it.
Yeah.
They don't. And there's a lot of these are friendly countries. I mean, Japan.
Canada.
Japan charges us huge tariffs.
Yeah.
And we don't charge them on them. So, but Japan's willing to... They were one of the first countries.
Yeah.
Make that phone call. Whoa. What's going on here?
Right. Canada. I mean, the premier of Ontario decided that, they're going to drop their tariffs. But as a nation, Canada is still holding to it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's Alberta is another one that's waning.
Yeah.
Because of their lumber imports that come into the United States.
Yeah.
That's their big export. That's their big big part of their economy in Western Canada. There.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see a little break on that. But can Canada do that? I mean, can the provinces
I don't know.
break like that?
Apparently they are.
Yeah.
There might be.
You don't really have anybody in charge in that country. Let's just be honest.
I mean, they probably have national tariffs, and maybe they can have provincial tariffs as well. I don't know.
I mean, Trudeau's basically been castrated, so I mean,
well, he's out. They got another guy in there,
but he hasn't taken over yet, though, right? I thought he hasn't been.
There hasn't been an election, but he's out. His party is still in control. It works differently than it does.
Yeah, it's
horrible.
It's British like over there. Okay.
Yeah, where it's like, the wind changed directions. We need to get a different PM in here this week.
Well, they don't have an executive the way we would think of it.
Right.
It's not like that. It's not like being president.
No, technically the queen or whatever, the king now, I guess.
Is the head of state.
Head of state.
Right.
And even though it's ceremonial and whatever.
Yeah, they don't hold political power, but
yeah.
I saw another interview with Boris Johnson, who's just marveling at Trump all the time.
Of course.
What a chap over there. He just gets still hasn't combed his hair, but he was really well. And the UK wants to submit. They're not part of the EU anymore.
Right.
They're trying to deal separately too. So,
but they're still doing all the same stuff when it comes to immigration and everything else.
Yeah, a lot of that too. Yep. But I mean, ultimately, it's. Yeah, can't. I mean, I just. It's funny watching the globalists because what free trade has done, and look, there's a place for free trade, but it's made a very small amount of people a whole lot of money.
Yeah,
I mean, and they've got a whole lot of power because of it.
Yeah, and
so whether that's been good for the masses or not. And I think Trump is more Main Street, not Wall Street.
Yeah.
Despite his background. And he did everything Wall Street wanted in his first term. He repealed Dodd-Frank. He did a big tax cut. I mean, he didn't start a trade war, which a lot of people. He did put a small tariff on China.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there was a lot of things that the stock market boomed under Trump.
Yeah.
So I think now it's Main Street's turn is the way I sort of see it. He's made that pivot. He's changed the dynamics in this country. Now, I don't know if he's changed them for good because I still am trepidatious about, whether this coalition can hold together without him at the head of it.
Yeah.
Because everybody points to these special elections in Florida a week or two ago. But and the Republican won by 20 and Trump won by 30. Is that really special election? Is that really a sign of anything? I really don't think so.
You don't know who shows out.
Yeah, but it does make me question. I mean, and this is the last thing I'll throw to you before we get going too far here. But what has to happen for the changes that have be made that last beyond President Trump? Because everybody says, well, he's realigning politics. Well, he is when it comes to voting for him. I don't know that that's quite the case with with everyone. It's like if it's different when he's at the top of the ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a governor like Ron DeSantis doing a great job, it's fine at a place like that. But I mean, how does the coalition stay together with him not as the head of it? Because there's a lot of people who don't identify as Republicans who voted for him.
Right. I think a lot of them do like J.D. Vance. And
right.
I think as long as what he's
the
think smart so thing for Trump to do, and he has done it so far, is, J.D. Vance has not been a ceremonial VP. He has been involved and active in the affairs of the White House.
And on the world stage.
And so I think that he is testing him to see, can he be the heir apparent? And I think he believes he can be, or he wouldn't be testing him like that.
Yeah,
he'd be hiding him.
I think Vance is going up every day, personally.
Yeah. So I think with a J.D. Vance, it can. Now, you're going to have people that want to vie for that spot, in just a little over 3.5 years.
But let's be honest. If
yeah.
JD runs and has MAGA behind him, I don't see anybody that can knock him off.
I mean, Ron DeSantis might come close.
But I don't. I think DeSantis is smart enough to. DeSantis is younger. They're both younger than me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, they would be smart to run together.
I think they would be. I think completely that.
Yeah.
I mean, because DeSantis, where's he going to go?
Right.
DeSantis would be miserable in the Congress. He's born to be in charge.
Yeah.
Like Trump. You imagine Trump in the Senate, how miserable he'd be?
Mm-hmm.
That would be DeSantis. He's just born. He's a born leader.
Yeah.
So he has to be an executive in something.
Yeah.
And so it would be interesting to have a Vance DeSantis ticket.
Yeah. And there are other talented people in the administration and in Congress, and
a lot of the younger people are.
How well do you train them in? It's all about mentoring and lifting people up with you and letting people see that they can handle the work. Yeah. Because if you can do that and you can bring people up and create popularity around them, you should be able to perpetuate that. But it's when we are provincial about it and it's like, oh, I'm just going to do my job, keep my head down, I'm going to do a good job or whatever.
And I also think competition is a good thing. I think that putting somebody, testing them in a primary, testing them, I think that's a good. I mean, the way it came out, Byron Daniels is going to run for governor of Florida.
Yeah.
Looks like, another young MAGA guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got Vivek in Ohio. I mean, you can see how they're setting up these people in their 30s and 40s to take the mantle. I just worry about do they wander back to the Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Lindsey Graham. Does it ever wander back to that? I mean, I welcome them in the party because I think they can agree on enough to where and same thing with like the Tea Party, Libertarian Republicans. I think we can all agree on enough to move forward.
Yeah.
But who's in charge is a little bit of a conundrum sometimes.
I find it entertaining, speaking of Lindsey Graham, during Biden's term, it's like, Ukraine, we must give money to Ukraine. They must be able to win this war against Russia. And now you hardly hear him talk about Ukraine. Oh, Trump is the greatest.
I'll tell you
Trump
why.
is so great.
Tell you why.
Yeah.
They lost. They've lost that argument.
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham's not stupid.
Right.
He knows that, all right, I pushed it. I ain't going anywhere. I'm up for re-election next year. If I don't want a primary challenger, I don't want Elon's PAC after me.
Right.
I better make a few adjustments.
Yeah. I'm as MAGA as they come.
Yeah, well, I mean,
of course you are.
I mean, hey, look, you got to read the political winds, and he's no rookie.
Right.
You don't become a rep and a senator for 20 years by being stupid. So it's
right. Well, I mean, I guess you find your way back there when you're a Mitch McConnell, but
I always say this: you can judge somebody especially in the Senate by the class they were elected in.
Yeah,
you go back to 2002, 2004, and that's when you got the Lindsey Grahams, the John Cornyn's, the security Republicans, the CIA's the greatest thing in the world, weapons of mass destruction. Then you had the Tea Party group. You had Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Ron Johnson, Mike Lee. Then you've had the MAGA ones, the John Kennedys, the Josh Hawleys, put J.D. Vance in that category. Yeah. So you kind of see it evolve from when they came, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and speaking of those different classes of people, it sounds like John Cornyn down in Texas is going to have a little
Ken Paxton, isn't he going to run?
He is, yep.
It'll be tough.
Yeah.
It'll be real tough. You think Cornyn gives up at some point?
No, he's not going to give up, but I think there's a good chance he gets beat. Ken Paxton is super popular in Texas.
I mean, they've tried everything like Trump. They've tried everything to destroy him, and he just gets more popular.
Yep.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Really tough. If
I were Cornyn,
I'd just become a consultant. It's just not worth it. I mean, seriously, it's like
he doesn't have Mitch McConnell to funnel him money.
Exactly. I mean, the money's going to go to Paxton.
It might
not from the Senate committee, but the
people,
the small donor Trump donors. Yep. That's where the money's going to go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Thune directs his money.
Well, I mean, we already know where some of it's got to go. It's got to go to North Carolina. It's got to go to New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. It's got to go to Michigan. I mean, there's some states where it has to go because those are the tipping seats. But, yeah, I don't know. Personally, I would be okay with Thune just sitting it out.
Yeah.
Let the two sides.
Yeah.
But the winner's got to be support. Well, the winner will win in Texas, though it's not.
Yeah.
But I fear, this is one of my fears, Paxton wins, kind of like Carrie Lake. You know, they funneled opponents to Carrie Lake's primary people, and then when she beat them, they didn't fund her.
Right.
So could that race become more competitive because Paxton doesn't get the money? I mean, he wins the primary, and Texas primary's early too. It's like May.
Yeah.
May, like mid-May. It's not. It's a pretty early primary. So that's probably why he's out and about already because he's got. So. You know, there's no public financing for that. So I mean, I get concerned that you know when an upstart comes, they won't. Won't finance them. So, because I mean, you can write off Texas as a win, but I that's dangerous to do too.
Yeah, that's true. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that and who pops their head up in what state and whatever. It is going to be an interesting 2026 race for sure. So. How much more MAGA will the Republican Party get? And that's I wonder if they're going to start clearing out some of these establishment Republicans and actually start primarying some of them. I hope so in this state. I would like to see the Republican Party get more populist, more
Speaking
conservative.
Speaking of this state. What do you think of the old budget proposals going on? The Republican, Democratic, which are remarkably similar.
There's
not a whole ton of difference between a hilarious budget from Tim Walz, but the Republicans not seeming to offer much as a counterweight, in my opinion. So it's the normal. It's going on. We got DFL and DFL Lite. The projected surplus for right now is dwindling down to nothing. And I don't know how they project a huge deficit in 2 bienniums from now. I don't know where they get these numbers from. I don't understand how anybody can prep for that when we have no idea. How do you account for that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, we're gonna have a $6 billion deficit in the 29. How do they call the fiscal year? It's from July 1st, 2029 to June 30th, 2031. It's a projected $6 billion surplus. Deficit.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Can't cut a single penny.
Well, of course we can't, Jay. I mean, we had our huge surplus, which is all gone. Republicans are basically proposing, to cut none of it. But the governor a couple of weeks ago put out his revised budget that, according to him, is fiscally responsible and prioritizes blah, blah. Who cares? Here's my favorite one. Before we get going, here's my favorite part. Lowering taxes. Listen to this proposal by Walz.
Yes.
We're going to move the sales tax from 6.875% to 6.8. 0.075%.
Wow.
So what is that? That's 7.5 cents out of every $1,000?
Something like that.
Wow, Governor.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Talk about an economic stimulus.
Yes.
Woo. Gee. And he wants to expand the sales tax.
What?
Yes, there's a few services. I don't know how this breaks down with, not like clothing or something like that, but there's some other little services that don't have a sales tax that he wants to put one on.
Oh.
So apparently that's tax fairness. And then he wants to increase a healthcare surcharge to HMOs, which of course just gets passed off on us. Why don't you just raise my healthcare premium there, Governor? Wouldn't that be better?
Right.
The HMO's not going to pay it.
Yeah.
They're going to find a way to put it off on me. What an idiot. The governor has an anti-fraud package. Is that Doge? Doge was evil.
No, it's not Doge. It's let me cover my butt for all of the fraud that they're uncovering with like Second Harvest and such.
Yeah, or feeding our whatever it is.
Yeah, feeding our faces. Feeding our pocketbooks.
Making sure health insurers pay their fair share. Oh yeah, that's bad. I mean, this is junk.
Yeah. Well, he wants to get rid of a $110 million annual support for Minnesota kids, and what it would do is it takes away from their help for non-public school students for textbooks, transportation, counseling, and mental health services.
Right. He wants to anything that doesn't go to public schools, he wants to get rid of.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yes, the projected surplus of $456 million, which is in the 2-year budget that runs from 25 to 27. The governor has proposed a $66 billion budget, and the Republicans have pretty much proposed pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of differences in there, but not a whole lot. I mean, here's they basically here's what the Republicans are kind of trying to get rid of. There's a lot of the light rail stuff, reconnecting the Rondo neighborhood crap,
goodness,
things like that.
Yeah.
MNsure for illegal aliens, which I'm sure is probably there. They do not propose to cut taxes on Social Security that I can find. Maybe they talk about zero-based budgeting, which of course they'll never implement. I don't think they're all that far apart on the budget, which really kind of scares me.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Why is public education immune from... I mean, that's like almost half the budget. How can you say half the budget is immune from any cuts whatsoever?
I don't know. How do you do that? That seems like counterproductive. It's like if we're spending too much, we should spend less. We should find a way to do that. If we aren't spending as much as we used to, yeah, you kind of need to make a cut to those programs, not just put extra money in a fund. There are reasons why you need to cut.
But let me ask this: we had an $18 billion surplus,
right?
It's all gone. It's all been spent.
Yeah.
Why is it Minnesota Republicans can't make any hay out of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it because the Democrats have spent that money and they've bought off certain groups and they've bought off, they've used that money for all their giving it to all their friends and all their fundraisers. And I mean,
yeah,
why is it that they seem to, as a party, just not be able to make any? I mean, I can't imagine Republicans blowing a surplus like that and facing no political consequences for it.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand at all. It's like it doesn't even get talked about. Well, it does. I mean, I have seen people talk about it, but it really doesn't get the coverage that it should. I mean, we went from...
I think some candidates as individuals did a good job of it, but as a party, there seems to be no, hey, this is yours, not theirs.
Right.
And it's like I go back to this. Watching Jesse Ventura, Norm Coleman, and Skip Humphrey in 1998 argue about a $23 billion budget. And now we're talking about a $66 billion budget 7 years later.
Yeah.
Put it in perspective here. Almost 3 times, 2.5 times the size.
Yeah. No, I understand. It's and when you drop to that kind of a deficit after you have such a large budget surplus and you promise people checks and that you will return part of their surplus and then you don't give it to them and then we find out you blew all of this money, $18 billion turning into a $6 billion deficit. I don't even know how you do that. I mean, that's a special skill.
Well, and how about something like Southwest Light Rail? Is that still getting funded?
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know.
What kind of a boondoggle has that been?
Oh, it's been awful.
It's been one of the worst things. It's like the biggest, most horrible thing that's ever happened as far as spending in this state. And we're still just plowing right ahead as far as I know with it.
Yeah, well, I know recently, and you and I know Senator Mark Curran.
Sure.
And he was part of a panel that his committee was grilling the Met Council. And it said it confirms what many of us have been saying for years, that the Met Council's failed to protect Minnesotans' tax dollars and should have taken action to correct course a long time ago. They added or audited the Southwest project, and it's
okay. But here's my question.
Yeah,
and I like Mark, and this isn't directed at him, but you can audit that all you want. Where's the accountability for it?
Right.
Because you can audit something all day long, and if you just keep going with it, it's,
Yeah, I mean, the cost is more than doubled. I mean, that's crazy.
They're never right. They are just never, ever right on anything they predict or project.
Yeah, I know.
Insane. The Social Security tax is something that is still there here on Minnesota. But, to me, here's my other question. We're not going to get we know what's going to happen. There's going to be a hodgepodge at the end and we'll find out what happened by December.
Right.
Because but Republicans are guilty of this too. If we share control of the House, however that's working, if Lisa DeMuth is the Speaker, can't they force not having omnibus votes?
You would think so. There should be enough Republicans that would just say vote no on any omnibus bill, but I don't know. That is something that has to change up there, and it just doesn't. Legislature after legislature after legislature after legislature, we continue to have these backroom deals that piece together these horrible omnibus bills, and then we're stuck with it because of all the compromise. The DFL gets so much that they want, and we're stuck paying for it. Any Republican that can hear my voice right now, you need to say no. No more omnibus bills. And if you're a governor, well, we don't have a governor here that's conservative, but if you were to be, or you're running for governor, if you're in the legislature, you need to vote no. And if you are just a regular old person like me, you need to be urging your senator, your House person, to vote no.
See, and the frustrating thing about it is we have a governor with a line item veto.
Right.
The governor could force this to happen if he really wanted to. He'd say, look, I'm not signing. And if we had a court system that would fairly interpret the law, and which we don't, because a bill's not supposed to have more than a single subject. That's in our Constitution, which has been warped thinking, obviously. Yeah. So, I mean, it would never be able to happen this way. But I got to say this. One thing about this is a hilarious story from Alpha News. The critics of the sales tax thing. So basically, let me break it down. The 0.075% cut. Wow. What the proposal would do is require Minnesotans to pay sales taxes on banking, brokerage, legal, accounting services that are currently tax exempt. So you go file your taxes, and you'd have to pay sales tax.
That's stupid.
Yeah. Walz labels it a tax decrease, but most people have it as the opposite effect. Critics include the Chamber of Commerce, the Minnesota Bankers Association, the Minnesota State Bar, Minnesota Realtors, Minnesota Society of CPAs. He's pissing off everybody with this. Yeah. National Federation of Independent Businesses. But I have to say, one thing I do have to say is the Republican response to this cannot be no new taxes. That's not how they, and again, that is not how they can respond to that. Why don't they respond to it with a proposal of their own? Yeah. You want to cut sales tax? We'll cut it in half. How about that? Yeah. There's where we'll start the negotiating.
Right. Yeah.
Instead, it's no new taxes.
Well, you got to move the Overton window. It's like you have to propose something that is so crazy that they will never go for it, so that you have room to come back and get ground on something that you want. You can't start with what you want because you'll never get it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what largely we just hear, well, no new taxes, no new taxes. Well, no new taxes keeps the system the way it is.
Yeah. Or slightly worse.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, that's that proposal. But I'll tell you what. Yes, it is. Listen to this. Here's the savings. The savings is $7.50 on $10,000.
Wow. I can just feel that extra cash in my wallet.
And let's not forget the counties and cities and all that have added taxes on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have a lot of that now. I mean, it's not all cities, but you have a lot of cities that have opted for that local option sales tax. And
well, and they're all approved.
Yeah,
they're all approved at the front. I want to, again, Jay. Let me throw a few things out there about what we would do for the budget. The first thing I obviously would do is zero-based financing, but let's just pretend we couldn't get that.
Yeah.
We couldn't get that. I when I look at taxes that are escalating, it really is the excess taxes, the property taxes, the things. Now, you might say, well, property tax is local, but the property tax system is very much pushed on by the state. They're the ones that write the laws that the county is the tax collector. They're the ones that put on the mandates that they don't always fund. They're there's the federal government puts stuff on counties and things like that. They're the ones that put the mandates on the school districts. So, you can sit there and say that property tax is a local thing, but is it?
Right. Well, I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for a local project, usually it's implemented.
But again, how much
by
money's lost in that merry-go-round of money? In me sending my money to the state,
Right.
And then they take money and send it to the county. Then they,
Yeah.
I mean, how much?
That is true.
How much money's lost just in that process?
Too
That's what
much.
I'd like to see an audit on.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Republicans and what they've got to do with the budget, they've got to start with the most conservative right-wing budget.
Yep.
And then work your way that way. But the Republicans basically have proposed, we're going to cut funding for Northern Lights. Okay, great. So everything else stays.
Right.
Tampon wins again.
Well, let's hope with a tie in the House. Well,
I don't
Senate
think
is a
you're going to
Democrat,
see what
yeah,
we
so I
saw
think-
2 years ago.
Right.
But I don't think we're going to see much of. Only we're going to be. But again, everybody walks away pissed off.
Yeah.
I consider that a win for us.
Well, yes.
That's just me.
That is true.
There's a look. One of the things too that has to happen here is, the Republicans have got to capitalize on the middle class support that they're getting.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that by talking income tax. They're not going to do it by talking that. They got to do hitting people. We talked about the Social Security. Minnesota could not tax overtime or tips.
Yeah.
We could cut those regressive taxes like sales taxes and gas taxes and things. I mean, you'd have to redirect some gas tax funds. But, I mean, there's ways that can be done. Where's the big ideas there, when it comes to that?
Yeah.
We need big ideas.
Yeah, I don't know. We've got to find a way, though. I mean, we're taxed too high. Nationally, we're taxed too high. And we're not getting anything for it. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, and I think we've also got to capitalize on the angst felt toward our institutions in this country.
Yeah.
The angst felt at education, big education right now, is higher than I've ever seen it before in my lifetime. And it's got to be capitalized on. The angst toward the department of this and the department of that and experts in this field and that has to be capitalized on. I would love to see the House some people would think this is a waste of time. I would call it accountability.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the House go after the Department of Health for during COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's something that has to happen. That's just accountability. I want Jan Malcolm under oath. I want who was the other one? The other ugly twin. I don't remember her name, but it doesn't matter. No, that's at a
the
national
guy. Yeah.
But the other ugly one, I don't remember, but it doesn't matter.
My word.
I want those people under oath.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, to me, the Department of Health, I want to know anybody there worked on a COVID patient. I want to know who is making these charts and these, it's important to have accountability. And when it comes to something like COVID, we haven't had any of it. We literally had none of it.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything. I mean, granted, the Republicans really haven't had control of a whole lot since COVID, so it doesn't surprise me, but...
Well, that's a good point.
You have to control some things to be able to have a committee that you can go and subpoena people with, but...
Yeah, can I throw something else out there? We talk about the Met Council. We hate the Met Council.
Yeah.
Reform the Met Council. Why don't we start a bill to, slowly start taking away their authority?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Because you can...
I'd be in favor of that.
You can slowly, piece by piece, do something like that.
Right.
Somehow that monster has to be tamed.
Yes.
And like I've said before to you, and we've talked about this, electing them is just a nightmare. I think that's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Nightmare scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people don't know who their county commissioner is. They're going to know who their Met Council rep is.
It'll become the Three Rivers Park District. It'll become, what's that? Who are they?
Yep.
Who's this on my ballot? Oh, I saw a sign for this person. It'll be that.
Yeah.
You could actually get a worse Met Council. Just imagine who'd get elected in Minneapolis.
Oh, my word.
You could get a worse Met Council that
You
way.
could. You could have Jeremiah Ellison on the Met Council.
You could have Rebecca Knocker. We could have I don't know. You could have who's your fan? Leah Finke? Leah Finkel?
Yeah.
What's her name?
His name, yes, is
what a beauty.
Yeah.
What a beauty. So yeah, I mean it could be even worse if it gets elected. I don't want to turn into Portland.
No.
Not that bad. But yeah, I just want to say something too. What was the deal with Walz getting booed the other day? Where was he?
He was here.
Oh, he was here. I thought he was in Ohio for something.
Oh, he might have got booed there too.
Oh, okay.
He got booed here by a bunch of he was in the Capitol Rotunda today, and he got booed by vets because of the stolen valor thing. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you what. People take lying about your service take that pretty seriously. So, Senate, this is according to CBS News, Senate Republicans in Minnesota are going to cut $646 million out of a $66 billion budget. Well, that's what would you say that is, Jay?
That's a
point.
That's a good old D plus, C minus.
Now, like we said, it's about 0.8%. Not too much, is it?
Yeah, it's not too much.
How do you get? Oh, by the way, a budget surplus bill for a constitutional amendment to be put on the ballot next year. Did you hear about this?
No.
The Republic, I'll say this. This was an interesting idea. I don't love budget amendments. I don't like constitutional amendments too much when it comes to finance.
Yeah.
But this was a ballot measure that would require X amount. I can't figure out how much. I can't trust CBS too much for all this.
Right.
That would be returned to the taxpayers. That a percentage of and that got defeated on a party line vote.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
And that should be on every campaign lit piece.
Well, and again, I mean, this is something that again, if I walked into a grocery store,
yeah,
and my groceries were $85,
yes,
and I gave the cashier a $100 bill, the grocery store can't decide to keep some of my change because there's something they want to do. Hey, you know what? We're going to keep this $15 surplus, that you gave us.
Yeah.
Because we want to expand the produce and put in a new commode.
Right.
So why can the government do that?
Well, because they own the printing press, I guess.
But they don't in Minnesota.
Right.
But here's my question. Why doesn't our Constitution address that?
Well, I guess the people who made
we have
our
a balanced
Constitution-
budget
Yeah.
proviso.
Right.
We're required to have a balanced budget, but there's no provision about what to do. The government can collect and collect and collect.
Right.
There's no limit on what they can tax you on.
Yeah, there should be some guardrails put into place. I mean, for sure. Consumer protections and things that enhance freedom. Obviously, we want to restrict the government, enhance the freedom of people. That should be the goal of the government.
That's what the Constitution's supposed to do.
Supposed to.
It's supposed to be a declaration of what government can't do to us. Now, I got to say this, though.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping around, going a little off subject, but those libertarians are driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Some of them are already all on President Trump and all. And like, what do you want? I mean, can I just say a couple things to libertarians here?
Yeah.
We actually have a president reducing the size of government, in case you didn't notice.
Yes.
We actually, Congress needs to help him on some stuff.
Yeah.
We actually have a president trying to get fair trade deals, not start wars. Not, I mean, just what do you got to do to satisfy these people?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, look, I get it that I wish it was 1787 level of government too, okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not, but I wish it was, okay? But after 10 weeks in office, Dave Smith went on a rant the other day, and I was like, God, I dislike him more and more every day. It's like, what do you... They're perpetually unhappy. Honestly, libertarians and liberals ought to get together and see which one's more miserable.
Oh, boy.
Seriously. How about miserable
I mean, I get it,
contests?
though, because things have been so bad for so long. We've had 100 years of terrible government.
Right.
And I would love to see every last little bit of poison ripped out of the American system. I consider myself to be pretty libertarian. However,
constitutional is how I would call you.
Yeah, I'm very constitutional.
You're not a libertarian in that you want, crack cocaine being used on the street.
No, I don't want that.
Constitutional is how I would describe it.
Very constitutional, but very much libertarian in that, I don't think the government really should have a lot to say about how you live your life. That they should pretty much leave you alone for the most part, unless your freedom is restricting somebody else's freedom. That is where government should get in to be the arbiter between those things.
Okay, now, this is where I come back to. Are you right? Yes.
Yep.
Is Dave Smith right 8 out of 10 times? Yes. I don't care.
Yes.
There's a practical thing that's in front of our faces that none of us created, and it's the endless growth of government.
And see, that's what's missing from libertarianism is
the
pragmatic approach to returning things to the way they were. We're not going to get it in one fell swoop.
Yeah, it's got to be incremental.
The great can't kill the good. You have to move in that direction progressively, almost like an anti-progressive movement, to undo
anti-progressive,
right? to undo 100 years of bad legislation.
Yeah, and I really have a lot of respect for what a lot of the idealism, but I just come back to well, you've got to propose something. It has to get voted on. You have to. It's easy to sit on a microphone like you and I do. You and I talk a lot about solutions, a lot about first steps.
Yeah,
a lot about where does it start, where does it begin. Place like Minnesota, when I look at something like education, and this is something that frustrates me about Republicans. They go on and on and on, yet at the end of the day, fund everything that you start with. All right, how do we increase competition? Okay, it's either through tax credits, or it's through pods, or maybe it's outside of the government. It's where do those first steps come? Then, you got 80% of the kids going to public schools. Then it's 77%.
Yeah.
And it's 75%. And you can see where it's headed. And again, the point A to point B, or point A to point Z maybe is the answer.
Right.
Same thing on taxes. I mean, one of the things I hate about the no new taxes is we never have a discussion on what it should look like.
Right.
What should it look like? It's easy to say no to everything. Tell me what it should look like. Should we be a state that relies on income taxes? Should we be a state that relies on excess taxes? Should we be a state that relies on property taxes?
Yeah.
Right now, we're getting taxed on all of them to death. Well, okay, what's your reform?
Yes.
Where does it start here? And I think that's one of the problems that Republicans in the state have is voters don't have any clear direction of where they're going.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Walz is horrible, but it's kind of like I at least know where he stands on it, which is obviously he stands, hopefully in quicksand. But I mean,
yeah,
it may be bad. Bobby Knight used to have a quote: "I'd rather have somebody be consistently bad than inconsistent." So it's kind of like, all right, Walz is consistently bad. Good, I got it. So it's just kind of, that to me is what's missing from the opposition. It's like they don't know how to shoot at all these targets. And the incrementalism, the signing their dumb pledges, satisfying this group or that group, hasn't gotten Minnesota Republicans anywhere.
Right.
So,
no, and it won't. I think that we've got to, like President Trump, take some wild swings. Like we said before, we got to push that Overton window. We can't just chip away. We do something bold, and then we come back. We come back from that bold move. As much ground as they'll let us take, we take it. But we're not going to get it all in one fell swoop. But if we just maintain the status quo, that doesn't do us any good either.
Yeah, I know it's a tough thing. But Walz's budget should just be laughed at.
Yes.
I'm just beyond frustrated though. Just beyond I mean, we're going to spend $66 billion, Jay.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that we don't need to be spending, I think.
Oh, God.
I don't think it'll pass the House. So
I don't think elements of it will. But boy, it's going to be difficult to, Let me ask you this question. Do you think any kind of middle-class tax cut can get Democratic? Why don't they support it? Like, why is Social Security taxes so hard to get rid of? Walz doesn't propose it.
Yeah.
He's given lip service to it for 7 years, hasn't done. Why is it? What is it about? We keep hearing, seniors on a fixed income. Oh, we pushing grandma down the stairs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. When they get a Social Security check that they worked 50 years to get, your Social Security check don't even cover your rent. Quit taxing it. There. How about that? No, we're not going to do that. Well, you talk about the cost of their groceries and their prescription drugs and their. How about the money that we're already just? Why don't we just give them more of it?
Right.
That won't cost us anything.
Yeah, that seems like a viable solution to me. But
here's the other thing I come up with: if they have more money to spend, won't they pay taxes on some of that money that they spend?
Yeah, sales taxes, sure.
Put gas in their car. I mean, you'll get some of that money back.
Right. Yeah, and people tend to, if they have extra cash to burn, to go make a big purchase.
Yeah, they do.
And so
think about when you get your tax return.
Right.
What do you do with it? You get on Amazon.
Right. You go buy a TV.
Yeah.
Government gets some of it right back.
Exactly. And you stimulate the economy. You've purchased a good or service with your money. So it's not a tit for tat. And like the same thing with things like overtime. I mean, how's a working guy supposed to get ahead if he works 5 hours of overtime and government takes 60% of the money? How in the world do you ever get ahead?
Well, it's the age-old question, It's you work harder so that you can pay more taxes, But
what's absurd about, and I always can't stand this when it comes to income taxes, which is why I think like a flat tax or something is, if you're going to have income taxes, that's the direction you need to go.
Right.
You and I could make the same amount of money and be taxed completely differently.
Right.
Based on how we got it.
Yeah.
Whether that's through bonuses, overtime, salary, capital gains,
being self-employed,
our deductions. I mean, they can look like two things from outer space.
Right.
Okay. Where's the fairness in that?
Yeah.
I mean, if I make 80 grand and you make 80 grand, but I made a bunch of overtime or got a bunch of bonuses, my taxes are way higher than yours.
Right.
And if you have I would say I have a deduction for this, and you don't, you get penalized for it.
Right.
I mean, I'm okay kind of with like the family deductions because, I think that having dependents is obviously a big obligation on somebody.
Yeah.
But so there's tax credits for everything.
Oh.
Purchasing a dehumidifier that's green.
Right.
And you get a tax. It's like, come on. And then the small business people, they got to account for every penny that's in or out, So, which again is one of the reasons the income tax just drives me insane. Although I've said this before, and this is a populist view that some people on the right would disagree with, that all sales taxes and all that are regressive. So, to just have that is also a bit of an issue with me because, how do you exempt poor people from certain taxes? You can't.
Right.
And
although you think about it, I mean, if you have somebody who's poor that buys something, gets taxed on what they purchase, you have somebody who is rich, who has a lot more money, buys more expensive things, buys a lot more things, they are paying a lot more tax.
They are not as a percentage of their income, but you're probably right on that. That probably, certainly they pay more money. I think the big thing for me is how big a burden is it on somebody, especially if, and I think Minnesota more and more is going to move in the direction of not exempting things from sales tax. Right now we don't tax groceries and we don't tax clothes.
Yeah.
How many times have they tried to do that?
Right. As many times as they
I just feel like it's going to go at some point, and those essentials are going to be taxed. So
well, let's hope we can avoid that because it's one of the few benefits that we get in this state.
Boy, ain't that saying the truth?
Yeah,
very few. But yeah, I go. There's so many things to just unravel here in Minnesota that it's just real bothersome that pretty much none of it seems to be happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. Once again, Jay, I'm bullish on the federal stuff, and I'm bearish on the state stuff. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's probably about right now. Hopefully that'll change, but I think it's possible that it can change. I think it depends how hard people want to work, to get somebody elected. And I think that it depends on the strategy for whoever decides that they want to be governor of the state is willing to take.
Certainly, but I mean, it's got to change big time. And I don't know. I'm just I'm skeptical. Anything will change in Minnesota, but but I want to go back to what I asked a minute ago. Why won't Democrats support any of that? Why? I mean, you'd think Democrats would see poor people paying, all this sales tax, and poor people paying all this gas tax, and poor people paying, property tax, something they're really getting hit by. Yet, one after another will not support anything. Anytime there's a local project, anytime there's a chance to increase something, they do it. And it's like, don't you recognize, the people who are paying this? It's one thing to have a tax on a yacht. Yeah. It's another thing to have a tax on everything except fresh air.
Right. No, I agree. That's anything that they can tax, they will. And I wonder, if they can find a way to tax solar energy. Right now they're giving out tax credits for that kind of stuff, but at some point to use a service or whatever, it'll be, they can't tax it right now because that will discourage people from doing it. Right.
And that's what they don't want to do. They want to manipulate you into, or encourage, however you want to put it, into using that kind. If they make it more and more expensive, they know that that's going to have a reaction to it.
Right.
So they can't do that now. But when we don't have a choice, which won't be in our lifetime, but someday when we don't have a choice and solar's required on every new house, or it's
right.
Don't dismiss something like that. Then yes, it will be. They'll have to find some way to monetize it.
Yeah.
The same way they tax. Look at your electric bill. There's taxes on that. Your cable bill, there's a tax on that.
And a lot of these things, there's more than one tax. You look at your electricity bill. You look at,
it's $100 and 77 of it's actually going to the electric company,
right,
which has a monopoly. The rest of it is going to this surcharge and that charge for this.
Yeah, environmental fee and
what is that?
I know.
Why don't you just call it what the bank calls it? A convenience fee.
Right.
We're just charging you because it's convenient to charge you.
Right. Oh, it is so frustrating, and I don't understand why we can't look at that. We all know it. We all hate it on the conservative side, but yet there's no political will to do anything.
Who's laying those taxes down? Who's authorizing a tax on my electricity bill?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I didn't vote for it.
But I mean, who put it on there?
Oh, goodness, I don't know.
The state? Where does it go? Where does my convenience fee to Xcel Energy go?
Yeah, I don't know.
You have a monopoly in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but they nickel and dime enough people, and, that's what happens.
Or people don't even look. They don't even look at their bill.
Yeah, it's messed up, and until we get a handle on all the different ways we get taxed and realize that we're getting taxed even when we don't think we're getting it.
But I mean, if they're going to tax your bills, I mean, the idea that there's nothing that they're going to tax you on is just it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, how about a surcharge on your taxes? Remember that? Taxing your taxes? That's just even more insane.
Yes.
We'll tax your taxes.
Yeah. That's what happens, right? You look at the fees that you give your tax money to a school, and then that school gets taxed, and you're stuck paying for those taxes as well.
Yeah, the franchise fees.
Yes.
Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah.
They're just a total scam.
Mm-hmm.
Just a total scam.
Absolutely, they are.
I mean, why not just... I mean, what do you think the real percentage of somebody's paycheck is that goes to the government? What do you think it ends up being? Like, let's just pretend.
Mm-hmm.
Say somebody makes a paycheck. Say they make $100,000.
Yeah.
They take home 75. I'm making up numbers.
Okay.
They pay $2,000-3,000 in property taxes.
All right.
They pay who knows what in sales and gas taxes.
Yeah.
Another $5,000. Think of all the times you fill your tank up.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot.
$5,000 maybe.
Yeah.
You pay taxes on your electric bill, then you pay them on your cable bill, and then, you go and you buy your tabs, and then you. I mean, where does it? Where does it head?
Oh, I gotta get that specialized license plate, right? Yeah. You need the vanity plate. Yeah. That's a tax.
Costs another 10 cents to make. They charge you $40.
Right.
Whatever it is, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard, but and the idea that you have an entire legislative session and they can't remove one tax.
Right.
Not one single one.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's ridiculous.
I'm going to look up my electric bill. I really want to see what's on there.
You'll love it.
Because I live in the dark age. My wife and I live in the dark ages. My electric bill is very small. My place is very new, very efficient. And so, but I mean, we like candles. We don't even barely, other than my wife's habit of sleeping with the TV on, which now I do because of it.
Yeah.
So, other than that, it's pretty much, which actually I don't mind. because sometimes, like if I'm snoring loud, I'll go in the other room and I'll put wrestling on, and it's okay if I fall asleep to wrestling.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What did we watch last night? Who's the Boss? It was Who's the Boss on Hulu. It was
Look, I like Tony Danza.
Tony Danza's great.
Yeah.
Just great.
But
and the wife on the show plays a lot of insane women in Lifetime movies. She's very good at that.
Huh.
This too, and I'm going to piss off a lot of people.
Yeah.
The son on that show, you could totally tell when he's like 7 years old, flaming gay. He's flaming gay.
Yeah.
Just gay, written, stamped on his forehead. Not surprised at all.
Oh, boy.
That he turned out how he turned out. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to picture the son on that show.
I will say this, too.
Yeah.
My wife likes Family Ties a lot.
Yes.
You know what I don't like about Family Ties, though?
What?
None of them look like each other.
Yeah, well,
this can't be a family.
Yeah.
Okay. The dad, whatever his name, Stephen Keaton, is like 6'4". Michael Fox is like 5'3".
Yeah.
Okay.
Justine Bateman.
Yeah, Mallory and the other look nothing. They don't look like they're from the same.
That's true.
Planet. It's just it's a good show, but it's like I can't believe. Like I watch Growing Pains, and I'm like, okay, the Seavers, they could be a family.
Yeah.
I watched Family Ties, and I'm like, these people. Okay, all three of these kids are adopted or something.
Right.
It's just there's no way that's a family.
I met Tracy Gold once.
Oh, okay. She's in some good Lifetime movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wondered what happened to her.
Well, remember she had her eating.
Yeah.
Because it kind of came out later, about it, and then her sister was on some show.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of her name.
But yeah, her and Ben, right? The little kid. They were up at the
Jeremy Miller.
Jeremy Miller, yeah. I met them both up in Duluth at the mall up there when I lived up there, and I was younger.
No kidding.
What was I, 13 maybe?
Because Jeremy Miller's my age.
Yeah.
See, because I always liked Growing Pains because I wanted Mike to be my brother. Kirk Cameron's character.
Yeah.
I wanted Mike. I wanted an older brother.
Yeah.
So I never had an older. My parents couldn't give me an older brother. I'm kidding.
Get to work.
Yeah. It's like you can't go back. You don't have a DeLorean.
Right.
So,
1985.
So it was but your Family Ties, that's just not a family there. It just isn't.
No, but I did like the show. I thought Michael J. Fox was great in it.
He was the best.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Justine Bateman's conservative.
Yes.
You know,
even though Jason isn't.
Is not, even though I think he's hilarious.
I think he's an awesome actor.
Yeah.
Watch Ozark. He's an awesome
Never
actor.
seen that.
He's sensational.
Yeah. What was it that he was in with Arrested Development?
Oh, I never saw that.
Oh.
There's a movie that we like with Bateman was in it with Vince Vaughn. I really like Vince Vaughn. Couples Retreat. You got to watch Couples Retreat.
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid, but now that I've seen it a couple times, it's kind of like there's certain movies, like if I see Shawshank Redemption on AMC, I put that on.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous movie. If I see Speed on, I put that on.
Yeah.
And Couples Retreats become one of those.
All
right, I'll watch. Who else is it? Well, I don't know why I'm blanking on who's up, but Vince Vaughn and Justine Bateman. Jason Bateman are the two that everybody would know as. I don't know who the women are. My wife would know.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn, Libertarian.
Yes. Vince Vaughn is sensational. He's just great. Is he like 6'7" or something?
He's really tall.
Okay, because the one movie he's on with Owen something,
Owen.
the Wedding Crashers.
Oh,
that one, he's literally like. Owen Wilson's a good actor, but he's like
I like Owen Wilson.
2 feet shorter than Vince Vaughn, so it's just really weird.
Yeah.
When they're like dancing at a wedding, and it's like Owen Wilson looks like he's 12.
Yeah.
Just weird. Just weird. But yeah.
I like Vince Vaughn. Same character in every movie, I think.
Right.
But,
It's
yeah.
like Will Ferrell. He's Ron Burgundy in every movie, but it's, still.
Not every movie. There was one that he did.
Will Ferrell?
Yeah. Kicking and Screaming. I watched it with the kids.
I don't remember that. Is that a soccer movie?
Yeah.
Maybe I've seen that.
Mike Ditka is in the movie.
No, I think I have seen that.
Oh, it's great.
Well, the ones I always think of when it comes to him are old school. Then there was the racing movie, and then there was what's the one where he's got the Step Brothers?
Oh,
and then he's the same character in all of them. Just totally annoying, totally an idiot.
yeah.
It's funny for a while, and then it's kind of okay. It's like watching Jerry Springer. Okay, I've seen the women pull their hair and blah, 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 pull the wig off and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
we
boy.
digress, Jay. We digress.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay. So we've established that let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Favorite 80s sitcom. If you had to put one 80s sitcom on right now, what would you put on?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one.
'Cause there's a lot to pick from.
There's a lot to pick from. Different Strokes was 80s, right? That was 70s.
It was
as
like
well,
78 to like 84.
That was kind of more that one and the Jeffersons. And,
okay, this is what I have.
Yeah.
I use the Cosby Show as a divider.
I loved that one.
I do too.
Yeah.
But Cosby came along in 84.
Oh, was it that early? Okay.
And then the family sitcom kind of took over from like the edgy sitcom.
Yeah.
Like you had the All in the Families, the One Day at a Times that kind of pushed us. Good Times were good shows, but they pushed a little social button.
Yeah.
Then it became the family shows, the Cosby, Family Ties, Who's the Boss, Growing Pains era.
Right.
And they were good too, but they were very different from the Jeffersons.
Yeah.
That had kind of a little bit of like a edgy issue-based show. Norman Lear was famous for that.
Yeah.
One Day at a Time being the first real like single mom out there. Always was something different. Then it was like, no, we're going to go back to then the 90s came, and then again it had to get different. Then it became Friends. It became Seinfeld. It became shows like that. And and I always say it was the era of the bitchy women. That's when the bitchy women came on TV. The TV mom was not the nurturing. It became the mom got louder and more.
And the dads got dumb.
They
were all cast as dumb.
The dads got pussycats. They became pussycats. I always say Home Improvement was the show that changed that.
Yeah.
Because it made which I loved. I love Tim Allen.
I do too.
But the show made no sense that he's this grunting, tough guy. Then he goes home and his wife bosses him around and calls him names and puts him down. It's like, wait a minute. That guy would not marry that woman.
Right.
That would never work.
Right.
All they would do is kill each other.
Right.
I
mean, that guy really, if you look at Everybody Loves Raymond,
that's another one.
But
too.
it would be the relationship between his parents.
Yes.
I mean, that's what that relationship would be, where it's like
Frank and Marie.
In one ear, out the other, whatever. Right?
Frank would totally be Tim Allen.
Right.
And Doris Roberts' character would be it would be. It's like that makes no sense. As much as I love that show, that dynamic was all wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. I digress enough, Jay. Why don't you give us some words of wisdom?
Assuming I have any.
Yeah, it's getting late. We're getting tired. We've talked about Tim Walz. We've mentioned his name enough for a year. All right. Styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, take it away.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yeah, we've mentioned Tim Walz enough, but I know that he wants to run badly for another term as governor. Badly. He's. I encourage him to do it. I think that's a great idea. It's a great life choice for you. I also believe that he thinks he can win and turn that into momentum for 2028. Even though he's not talking about 2028 right now, I think he thinks that he can use that to build his national profile. Otherwise, he wouldn't be out there everywhere, traveling the country, trying to build up the Democrat Party. And Ken Martin is the chair of the Democrat Party in this great nation we live in. You think that he and Tim Walz, after their working relationship, after the past number of years, that there's not something there that they're strategizing together? I don't know. So if they think that he can beat anybody, look at their class of people, classless people they got coming up. Gavin Newsom or letting Kamala run again or whatever. Well, I don't think that I don't think they stand a chance, and especially as we give national attention to who Tim Walz is, people are figuring it out. He couldn't even carry his home district in the last election here, and so what is it that we need to make sure? We need to make sure that the people that we're putting forward have radical ideas. And I don't mean radical jihad type ideas. I mean radical ideas like cutting taxes, getting rid of regulation, making sure that we can use our natural resources here in this state, making sure that while we protect the environment, we are also able to utilize it for what we need. There are so many things that we need to do, standing up for women instead of putting men in women's sports, making sure that parents are notified whenever a child is confused. Instead, you have people at school that confuse the children, and then the parents aren't allowed to know about it. No, all this stuff has to stop, and we need to get behind people that are willing to push for the right kinds of policies. But to have that, we need people that have those policies. And if we don't have people that have those policies, then we're going to keep getting what we've got. So now is the time. If you've ever been thinking about running for city council, running for a school board, for a township supervisor, for a county, did I say county commissioner, a soil water conservation commissioner, the county attorney, that's a huge one. Now is the time to begin to put those things together. We need people to run for judgeships across the state because there's a whole mess of bad judges. People that Walz or Dayton had appointed office. We have to begin to make moves, and the only way to do that is to right now start putting those pieces together to build a foundation. We can help you build that foundation. We can show you exactly what to run on, how to cut through, how to understand what your area needs. If you have a rhino in the state Senate or state house, you might need to run for that seat if you're someone that's not a rhino and doesn't agree with what's going on and the things that they've voted for and passed. Get a hold of us. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That's COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. Because we have helped people, whether it's all the way from township supervisor up to the Minnesota House, we have helped people win elections. That's what we do. And so we are more than happy to help you to get prepared to take this state back. And if we do, we can change the voting laws to make them fair. We can take away the ability to have all of the same-day registration with no provisional ballots, to have voter ID, to have paper ballots, whatever it is that is going to cause us to have fair elections and free elections. We first have to win back this state. And we can do it, but it's up to you. Andrew and I, sure, could we run for office? Sure. 2 guys running for office, and even if we win, that's 2 more guys that ran for office and won. What we're trying to do is get 10,000 of you across this state into every city, into every township, in every school district, into the state. And we can do this because this is less than 2% of all the people that voted for President Trump in the last election. We have the people. Now let's motivate ourselves and mobilize so that we can win and actually fix this state so it's livable. How nice would it be to have low taxes? How nice would it be to have less regulation? How nice would it be to send our children away to school and have them not indoctrinated? But the move is yours. And yours, and yours over there. I see you. We've got to come together. The time is now. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.
Feel driven to push on, to fight.